Welcome to the Got Invention Show. I'm your host, Brian Freed, and tonight we have Husny Amerih. He's an inventor of the elevator safe leash for dogs. Welcome to the show, Husny. How are you?
Hello, Brian. I'm good. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Tell us who you are, where you're from, and why you're here tonight.
All right. Thanks again, Brian. So my name is Husny Amerih. I am an occupational therapist, and I am in South Florida. I have been an occupational therapist for many, many years, and I am teaching currently in one of the local universities here in South Florida.
Very nice. And you're an inventor. So how did that come about?
Oh, yes, sir. Certainly. So as an occupational therapist, we're always thinking about our clients, our patients. Every patient with disability is a different scenario, different problems, different issues, and each one has to have a certain problem-solving skills. So we're always creative. We're always trying to find a solution for a problem to fit a certain need for a certain client within a certain circumstances. So I think creativity is flows in my blood, and this is how this idea came.
So in your occupation, you're always having a problem solution. But then you kind of took that outside of your occupation and you came up with this invention from a situation that you were involved with. Tell us about that.
Yeah, certainly. So luckily I wasn't involved in that situation per se, but I witnessed it on TV, and it was in the news. I watched the news all the time. I think it might have been either featured in the local news channel or maybe a Facebook video that I saw. Anyhow, so what I witnessed was really just horrible. There was a lady walking into the elevator, and she was texting and basically walked on the elevator. The elevator door started closing on, and her pet, I think it was a dog in that case, basically stayed behind. And you could see where the leash for that dog started coming up, and luckily there was a person outside who was able to save that dog from being choked. So it just bothered me so much so that I started thinking about it. There must be a solution for this. There gotta be other people who were distracted as they're walking on the elevator or off the elevator. They're leaving their dog or their pet behind, and it just bothered me. And I started thinking about it, like there must be a solution. And the more I thought about it, eventually I came up with an idea.
So you're saying that somebody has their dog on a leash, they're in front of an elevator, they're chatting, they're texting, whatever it is, they're inside the elevator, and the leash and the dog are on the other side of the elevator closes, and what happens to the dog? So
well, yeah, I mean, it was very traumatizing. It must have been to the dog and to the owner on the other hand. I mean, as the door closed, you could see the leash coming up, which means, I mean, the passenger on the elevator was moving up in that case, and the dog was getting dragged up. And again, if it wasn't for an outside person, stranger, who just ran to save the dog, that dog would have been probably choked to death. And the more I looked into it, I mean, as a university professor, we're always looking for numbers and statistics and things like that. It happens more than you think. It happens at least 300,000 times a year where incidents like this, pets get caught on the opposite ends of the doors of an moving elevator.
now, wow. So you're saying 300,000 times a year. Now, I don't want to know what the end result of that was, why those statistics of 300,000. Who knows how many more times it happened that the dog is okay, but are these 300,000 deaths?
Well, those are incidents. I don't know
Incidents.
how many of them end up the dog end up traumatized, end up dying. But needless to say, I mean, it must be traumatizing. So you got to multiply that by 2 at least for the owner of that dog, because I mean, they were doing something important on the phone, distracted, or maybe the elevator moved too fast and the dog refused to get on or something. And again, and the pit itself, it must have been traumatizing. Now, I don't know the numbers, and actual deaths that happened from that, but the trauma is just enormous, I'm sure.
Wow. So, Husny, why don't you show us the demo of the elevator safe leash for dogs? And
All
then
right.
we'll talk about your journey of what you did to get to where you are and where you want to go. So, let me give you the stage here.
All right. Thank you. All
Okay.
right. So this is my pet. This is my dog, and he doesn't have a name. And obviously, no dogs were hurt in this experiment. So this is the leash, and this is a regular leash that you would put on a dog, but I adapted it with this patent pending mechanism here, where if the dog gets caught or the pet or gets caught on one end, and then the owner, my hand is on the other side, basically this leash becomes disconnected. So the mechanism inside can break under certain circumstances with a certain amount of pressure. So if this dog is running around or walking or playing around or chasing, it's not going to get disconnected, unless it is exerted against a certain amount of pressure, which has been tested. And again, it depends on the size of the dog. So the patent pending rather, mechanism inside will becomes disconnected under certain circumstances only. So this is the dog, this is the leash, and this is the patent pending mechanism inside.
Okay. And you set up almost like a replica elevator type of scenario. Why don't you show us what happens?
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah. If you're interested, let me switch cameras here.
Great.
I'm going to do that, and you'll get to see my miniature elevator. Here.
So you're going to show us the elevator scenario. Okay. Let's see.
Sorry, well, that took me a minute to switch cameras. So this is a moving elevator kind of simulation, and as the dog is on the outside and the owner is on the inside. So the elevator opens up, the owner gets inside, and the dog stays outside. The door closes, and as the elevator starts moving up, this mechanism with a certain amount of pressure, it gets disconnected. I got a lot of pressure on it to get it disconnected. Sorry for that. Yeah, at a certain amount of pressure, it just becomes disconnected, where you as the owner will have the leash and the dog stays on the outside of the elevator, basically safe. So this is a simple demo that I have for you.
Wow.
Yes.
So
you end up with a safe dog on the outside of the elevator with his mechanism inside, and then the owner is inside with the leash basically in his hand. So it's less traumatizing to the owner and to the dog, obviously, and hopefully at least doesn't happen again. Hopefully.
So does it release from the pressure when it's all the way up on top? So the dog has to actually take a ride up, until the elevator goes to the next floor? Or is it somewhere as soon as the elevator door closes, that pressure is just kind of, as soon as it hits that spot, it's disconnecting?
Well, it really depends on the size of the dog, but it usually does not drag the dog all the way up. But as long as this end here is against the door, and then this is inside, once this catches to the door of the elevator, wherever that happens in the moving, the timing of the movement of the door. So this gets caught in the door and stays in. This one is basically on the outside, and at that point it becomes disconnected.
All right. So talk to us. Tell us what you did. You saw that terrible scenario on TV. You started to do some research. You realized that this is a bigger thing than you thought. Maybe it happens once in a blue moon, but 300,000 plus that it happens to. Dogs that are getting caught in the elevator, on the outside of the elevator, and their owner on the inside. So you did the research. You realized there was a bigger issue than you thought. Tell us what you did after that.
Yeah. So obviously, what was featured on the TV that time was basically because I think it must have been a business where they have a camera watching, but I'm sure if it was in a residential building, there is no cameras, just because the fact that I saw it on TV, like we said earlier, it must have happens many, many, many more times that you don't see it. But because that building has a camera basically pointing at the elevator is when we saw it. Again, it just bothered me so much so, and I am not a dog owner, but I'm a cat lover. But regardless of what you fit is, it just bothered me. It must be so traumatizing to the owner and to the dog. So I just went online. It's like there must be something that those poor animals, they don't have to endure this. It's freak accident, but they don't have to go through this. So I looked and looked and looked. I couldn't find any uh, mechanisms or inventions or things to remedy a situation like that. I even went to the patent office search, the patent search, Google patent search, and I couldn't find anything that was patented.
That's
Uh,
neat. Did you find something that actually had some kind of release or pressure type of unlocking type of experience? Is there anything out there similar to that that maybe could be used on a dog leash?
Um, in my search, I couldn't find anything that kind of would have solved this problem. But your question is valid. I'm sure there is some, you could probably somebody could come up with an invention that maybe can adjust the triggers on the elevator doors, for example, or maybe put sensors on the elevator doors or something where if they sense. But from a simple solution like this, it's a simple but it's effective and it works every single time. And actually, I have an actual YouTube video of this where it actually works on a real elevator with the same dog, but a real elevator. But I couldn't find anything that I really could kind of apply to this scenario.
Okay,
So
so you did your search online, you searched through Google. Did you do a professional patent search with a patentability opinion?
I did not do that, and maybe I should, but I really, hours on end I spent on Google Patent, the patent office. I probably could have hired a professional patent searcher to do the work for me, but maybe that would be a next step before I commercialize this. Uh, but I have applied for a PPA, provisional patent application.
Okay,
So.
good. So that'll give you the right for 1 year to say that your idea is patent pending while you're exploring some options out there. So you ended up doing your research online. You realize that you have something that could be added to the leash,
Mhm.
and you continued on the process. So what did you do after that?
All right, so step number one is I did my search. Step number two, I couldn't find anything, so I applied for a provisional patent application just to protect the idea, like we said. Step number three is I started reaching out I took a demo video again, just to the proof of concept, basically, to demonstrate to people that it actually works as intended. So I did that, and I started looking for people who manufacture leash companies. I started basically reaching out to many companies. I have a list. Companies that manufacture leashes. Companies that kind of cater to pets and pet owner. Share the idea. I will send them the sale sheet. I send them a link to the video. I have some responses. Somewhere encouraging. Somewhere, you know, we're not interested. This is outside of our line of work and things like that. So I'm in the process now where I'm trying to find a licensing deal
Okay.
basically with somebody who's passionate about it like me.
Before that, though, because it looks like you have a pretty good prototype there. So to be able to figure out the way the mechanism works, the pressure release, the tension, whatever it is. So I know that you're a pretty savvy guy with technology and engineering and so forth. But what did you do at that point where you needed to figure out how the tension and the release is going to happen? Did you hire an engineer? You did it yourself?
No, this is a 3D printout, what do you call it? The 3D printing, basically, that I did. And again, if we go in the manufacturing process, we'll probably have to hire an engineer to make sure, because we got to protect the pet every single time. You don't want this So I tested it basically. I tested it. I put some pressure on it, exerted a certain amount of pressure. So the mechanism that I worked, although I applied it for a pit, pit, but we did not test it with actual pits until we make sure it works every single time from an engineering point of view. So it's tested. I just crunch some numbers, and it works. And I build a prototype, but that prototype is really just to as a proof of concept type of thing.
So the secret sauce is inside that capsule.
Yep, right here. Yes, sir. And it has to disconnect.
And you figured that out yourself inside how it was going to release?
Yes, exactly. Yes, I did, and that's in the PPA application. How it releases, and it has to release at a certain amount of pressure, because if this dog is running around, or chasing or walking the dog, you don't want this to come disconnected and then they get run over by a car, because you don't want that. So it has to, at a certain amount of pressure, depends on the momentum of the dog and the size of the dog and how fast they're running. Because you need this hopefully to work only one time only when there is so much pressure, 400, 500 pound of pressure PSI basically, against this, and that's really the numbers. And again, I'm not an engineer, but again, as a therapist, you think like, you almost have to think like an engineer almost.
Where did you end up finding somebody to file the provisional patent application for you? Because it seems like you pretty much, did you do the PPA first, or did you work on the engineering part of it where it's going to release? What did you do first?
No, I did the PPA first, so protect the idea, and then I went back and whatever I did in the PPA, I applied in the prototype itself, and then I took the video of it, the YouTube video, just like this, but it was an actual, like I showed you a minute ago, but it was an actual elevator, and it shows where it actually works. And then I started trying to share my idea, basically marketing it after the PBA and after the prototype and after the proof of concept demo video.
Okay, so where did you find an attorney or a patent attorney or a patent agent to file your PPA?
I did not do that through a professional lawyer, a patent attorney. Maybe I should have, but I did that by myself. And I think the process is, if you're detail oriented and you can read through the steps, I think I did that by myself. In a hindsight, maybe I should have hired a patent attorney, but I took that. I did basically follow the steps all by myself.
Oh, how did you do that? You went on uspto.gov, the patent office website?
Exactly. Yes. You build up not a profile, whatever they call it. Like you build up your profile, and then you take the step by step, and you upload your pictures and fill out, the abstract about the invention and the description of it and all of that, and then you pay the fees, obviously.
What made you decide to do it yourself instead of hiring a patent attorney or agent?
I don't know. Maybe I should have hired one, and I probably thought it's simple enough that I could do it. But again, in hindsight, maybe I should have done that. But we'll see. With the second invention, maybe I'll hire one. And honestly, maybe the cost was a factor. I did not price out patent attorneys, but I'm sure maybe they might be out of my reach for a working therapist. But yeah, I honestly, I thought the steps were kind of self-explanatory. That I was able to do it by myself.
Good. So you felt confident. You felt like it was able to walk you through, and you felt good while you were doing it. And after you finished, you felt like you did a good job.
Certainly, yes.
Good. Okay. So that's encouraging for inventors out there if they want to file their own PPA, provisional patent application. That's good. And you save some money there. So your intention when you created this, was there a thought about licensing to earn royalties, or to manufacture it and start your own business and start selling them yourself and really being able to tell the story about why you came up with it?
Well, my first intention was really just to save a life of a fit, like dog. That was my first thing. Like, I am the therapist by training. I need to reduce suffering, save a life, or something. That was my first intention, honestly. But the more I thought about it, okay, well, I got a new idea now. Maybe it's worth patenting. So, which I ended up doing, applying for the PPA. Now, my next step is to really try to find either a licensing deal or manufacture it myself. I'm more likely looking for a licensing deal just because of the cost. And again, I did not explore that yet. Maybe I need to talk to a professional and see the pros and cons for each. Uh, from my kind of, basic search, I think it may be expensive to manufacture something on your own, or you have to put up a lot of money. Again, that's my simple search. So I'm probably looking for a licensing deal, and maybe the second invention or the third one, maybe I can look into manufacturing myself. But I gotta crunch the numbers. So I'm a not necessarily a businessman, but at the same time, I have to come out see which one yields more fruits, basically.
Husni, when you came up with this idea, did you think about all the steps that you needed to do? Like, did you have any idea of what you were in for when you came up with this idea?
No, sir, not really.
So,
I'm glad that there are some people like yourself out there, Brian, who are willing to share their experiences, and obviously shows like this. Because when I started on looking on YouTube and LinkedIn, I mean, I had no idea what the PPA was or is, or how to do one, or I mean, I had no idea. I had an idea that could save a life. That's the only idea I had. Kind of, no pun intended, but I had no idea about the tips of, to protect my idea, and how to reach out to possible manufacturers, and how to reach out to possible, the companies potentially could license for. So, thanks to people like you who are professional doing this day. And I did end up hiring a consultant one time for 1 hour, if I can say that. I don't know if I can. That was you yourself, actually, that took me through a lot of these tips, Brian. So I really thankful for that. Other than that, no, I didn't know anything about how to market the idea or the steps needed to bring it to market.
so you decided to manufacture, I'm sorry, you decided to license. So you said that you started to prepare sell sheets and you started to find manufacturers. So were you looking for manufacturers to actually manufacture your leash, or were you looking for companies that actually manufacture leashes and distribute leashes, and those are the ones that you went after? So tell us how you figured that out.
And yeah, the latter is what I did, is actually trying to find, because again, talking to professionals, listening to the type of deals you guys do, is what I found. I was like, I need to find somebody who has an established track record of in this line of business, namely, leashes and manufacturing, because they already have, infrastructure to make the leashes. They already have infrastructure and marketing and market share to distribute them into different places, Walmart, Kmart, etc. So, and that's what I ended up going with, actually, or approaching, rather than going with, is I approached manufacturers who make leashes already, trying to sell my idea. You already made this. What if, you can make a kind of adapted leash that would save a life? Because again, they already have the infrastructure, the connections, and the business, etc.
So you went to the stores that you envisioned seeing your leash in, and you started to write down the names of the companies that make the leashes. You went home, you did research, and those are the companies that you called to try to get a licensing deal.
Exactly. And backtracking like that is not easy, because I mean, you go to Walmart, you see tons of products, but you don't know who makes those products, and until you do an extensive research. And there are people you can hire who can give you lists. I did not do that. I think it might have been more expensive than I wanted to spend the money on. But there are people who can, maybe come up with a list of certain industries that make, in this case, leashes. Uh, But I was able to do that by myself, through multiple searches, many hours of trying to narrow down who's doing what. And then you look at their websites and you can see their product line, you can see their mission, you can see their price ranges to see, if I'm trying to price this, 15, $20, for example, I need to approach companies that make products within that same kind of price range.
Were you looking for any companies that had innovative type of leashes?
Yes, exactly. So I really did look at that too. And there are some companies that they can take, they have innovation submission processes, so you can go on their lines and you can submit your innovative idea or new product, and then you can fill it out, write a description of it, and then upload a sell sheet. So there are companies out there that encourage outside inventors, and those are probably most likely will be more up to adopting a new product than companies that are
Mhm.
basically closed circuits, so to speak.
So some had submission online, submission for your invention online. They were open to it. These are actually leash companies, leash manufacturers that have product lines already in retail. So those are the companies you went to. You put information of yours into their system. Then you also found some contacts and you reached out to them directly. So what did you send them? Sell sheet, video. So how did you set that up for yourself, and how did you find them and send them?
So that's again. So I've made a list of companies, through Google search, through product, search. I went on believe it or not, LinkedIn. So I also looked at certain companies' profiles. I looked for pet companies, and I would find the product engineer person in that company, and then I will send them a LinkedIn message, and I would make it short and sweet. I say, I came up with a great idea. I'll be happy to share. And I would send them the link to the video, for example. If I have any responses, I will get their email and send them the sell sheet directly.
Mhm.
A lot of those went basically unanswered, but some of them we went back and forth. Some of them like, we're not interested, we're not taking any new products from outside inventors at this point. So it's basically an exercise in patience. You have to be patient in identifying those prospective companies and also reaching out to them too.
So what kind of response did you get? How long did you have to wait?
Well, I'm still waiting for a positive, for a bite, basically, for somebody to take on and the idea and license it. Some of the people who responded on LinkedIn, responded within an hour or two. Some of them within a day or two, and most of those, thank you so much. We're not interested in this product. It does not fit our company profile. Some of them, they want to, bring it up to their meetings, engineers type of things. So there are some, but until I get a yes, I'm gonna keep trying.
Have you thought about the leash being you that piece that you invented to be used on anything else, just in case you may not get a licensing deal for the pet leash?
You know what? That is a great idea, Brian. And I don't know if I can say this on your show or not, but I did when I talked to you, off camera. You gave me the idea of maybe you need to, open up your horizons to other possibilities, other potentials for this invention. And I really was thankful for your suggestion. When I thought about it, I had a problem that I saw, like I said at the beginning, a dog being caught and choked almost to death, you know, by a leash. That was my idea, is to solve this problem. But the more I think about it, like you just suggested, the more I think, well, maybe there are some other uses. For example, maybe if we modify this, it could work for kids. Maybe if I modify it enough, it might be for sporting or outdoor equipment. Maybe I can make it for industries or construction, where there's an intentional release, within certain industries that needs to be remotely done. So I'm exploring other potential industries and businesses that can benefit from this.
Good. And you're still continuing to try to find that opportunity in the pet industry. That's great.
Certainly.
So Husny, there's inventors that are at all stages of their ideas listening to this show and listening to you. And you've given some great advice and feedback. And look, you're working on attempting to get a licensing deal. You're thinking about some other industries possibly that your idea could be used in. It doesn't stop you when you get that no. You're still trekking ahead, moving forward, trying to find the one. So inventors are at all stages of their idea. You've gotten to a point where you've done your prototype, you've put your provisional patent application in, you did your research, your due diligence. Give some words of wisdom to the inventors watching you tonight. Tell us what we should do, where we should go, how we should think about what we should when we come up with our idea.
All right. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. So number one is really don't give up, because if you have a valid idea that would solve a problem, then it is a valid idea and it will solve a problem. You just have to find the right people who would take it on. And if somebody says no, it's not because they don't like your idea. Maybe you're asking the wrong people. Maybe you're in the wrong industry. So don't give up. So just keep trying. That's number one. Number two is talk to other people about your idea. Once you fill out you file for the PBA, the application for a patent, then it's your idea. So it's okay to talk about it with your family. You have to be passionate about it. They will give you feedback. Incorporate that feedback. Talk to professionals. Like yourself, Brian. They will give you ideas because they're on the other side of the industry. They know what works, what doesn't work. They can steer you in certain directions. Well, maybe licensing is not a good idea. Maybe you need to manufacture it. Maybe you need to license and manufacture at the same time. Maybe you need to think outside the box. So talk to professionals. Don't give up. Talk to people and be patient. It's just because it's a great idea. It's going to take some time for it to come to the market. Especially these days with the way the economy is, people are not going to put up a lot of money right away because it's a great idea. You got to be patient.
Thank you so much, Husny Amerih. We really appreciate you being on our show. We wish you all the best with the Elevator Safe Leash for Dogs. Great solution to a problem that really, who would know and who would think to really stop and say, you know what? Let me come up with something to save 300,000 dogs plus a year. Unbelievable. Thank you so much, Husny. We really appreciate you being on our show.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Husny.
All right.
Would you like to be a guest on the Got Invention Show? You can go to gotinventionshow.com and fill out your form there, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Got Invention Show. Have a great night.